Okay, so we're going to jump into the last section here, which is this little hole. And to do this, I think it's a good idea now if we start thinking about replicating these little pieces here. And also, we should probably just make this little piece that we're going to duplicate around so we have a reference. And by the way, my hole that I originally cut was a little small, so I went ahead and just cut a bigger hole here from just around the original one, and then I just extruded that back and just did the same process. Just FYI, if you were seeing a difference in the videos, there is. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to make this little piece and make this little piece, and then we'll go ahead and once we make this piece and put it on this guy right here, we can go ahead and replicate that around. We'll just combine the two together so we don't have to do the process twice. So let's go ahead and we'll isolate this for right now. And so this is the front view. Probably makes sense to do it in this view. And go ahead and create a cylinder. Just rotate it. Hold J when you rotate. You can snap it. Move it up like so. And then we'll just there we go. That gave it a very interesting name. I am not sure why I gave it that name, but anyway, let's make this like point, I don't know, 3. See if that's the right size. Looks pretty close. So somewhere about right there, I'm guessing. And then we can just pull it forward. Like so. And then we'll probably not want any of these for right now. Or at least not the back part. Let's just delete that out. And pull that up. And then we'll go ahead and just remove all of these. So I'm just going to hit backspace, get rid of those. So I should still have a face there, as you can see. There we go. And so then we just want to do our normal treatment with this, which would be to extrude in, like so, and then just cut it up. So the cut tool is probably one of the most used tools in the arsenal, depending on how you work. But comes in handy. And then just average verts. Let's do this. Turn our iterations up. Hit G a few times. Get that to spread out. Looks good to me. Now, we do have a little bit of a dome going on if you look at the actual object. So I've looked at it enough that I know that it's kind of rounded, but if you haven't seen it, let's go ahead and pull out the references. And actually we can look at one of the side views right here. You can see right there how it has a little roundness to it. Okay, so that's definitely going to want to, we're definitely going to want to put that in there. So I'm just going to select this, go to my soft select, and I'll just inch my soft select down so it's just grabbing the face here. maybe something like that. And then if we feel like the edges, I feel like the edges didn't get the right treatment, so I'm going to just pull those back just a tiny bit, like so. And then I'm going to do one more average verse just for good measure. And that's more to just relax this area after the pulling out with the soft select. I just want to relax it one more time. Okay, that should do it. Now, if we want to have like a nice little bevel there, when we soften our edges, we just throw one of those in there, and then grab the object, say soften edge, and then we can just delete the history, freeze the transformations when we know it's in the right spot. I'm not quite sure yet if it is, so oops. Okay, so I've got component on, and that's why it's moving strange. So if you don't want it moving like that, you have to turn it back to world or object. And let's go ahead and get our references back. Let's see if we can see where this is at. I'm going to guess it's about right there or so. Maybe a little up. Like that. And then one thing we're going to do is lay out the UVs. Anytime you're duplicating objects, you definitely want to lay out UVs ahead of time. That way you don't duplicate it and then move it all over the place and say, oh goodness, I have to go back and do the UVs on all these objects. That would be silly. I mean, you can like transfer attributes in Maya and stuff, transfer UV attributes, but you'd rather not even have to do that. So it's better if you just lay out the UVs ahead of time. So you can just put this on like a planar map, and then probably only just need to unfold it like so, and it'll probably be fine. Most of this will be hidden, so you won't see a lot of it. And then of course this is going to be itty bitty, so I'm just scale it down a little bit right now. Let's check it, just to make sure there's not massive distortion. There's a little bit on the edges, but most of that's going to be hidden. So I'm going to say that's okay. Alright, let's close that. This is a good time to save the file. And if you want, you could combine these two pieces together. We can go ahead and just say object, get these two objects and do a combine, delete the history, and then this is where you could do a radial array. So we would go ahead and let's hide our references for right now. We'll go to our top view just to make sure everything's working correctly. And then here's one of those areas where you're going to want to move your pivot point into the center of the world. So let's just go ahead and hold X and snap it right there. Hit D again. Go to your edit and duplicate special. And then from here, we want to rotate it. So this would be 90, 90, 90. So, and then we just need 3 of them. So we already I have it set up already. So it's rotating in the, that's rotating in the X. Actually, I think it needs to rotate in the Y. So let's make that in the Y. Hit apply. There we go. All right, now let's look at it. There we go. Easy peasy. Ooh, got some areas that are not sticking right to the surface. I think what I'm going to do, so this thing shrunk a little bit when I adjusted it onto that smooth mesh. So for right now, I'll just leave it, and then when I'm finished, I can just scale it up a little bit, or I can just scale these in, whichever way I want. Yeah, I might end up having to, you could actually grab everything, like grab all of these, and just scale them in a little bit, or scale them smaller, like so. mean, if it may go off of the reference just a tiny bit, but you know, if it's not gonna make or break it, then I wouldn't sweat it too hard. If it's really critical, then obviously redo everything. Just delete this thing out and then move it closer and redo what you have to. What I mean is just make it closer and then duplicate it again. So anyway, yeah, that should be fine though. I think that, you know, no one's going to be sitting here measuring it and seeing if it's the same as the picture, so it'll be all right. Hey, this is Professor Triplet, and we are going to get into this final hole cut here. And I just wanted to tell you that I jumped ahead because in a former video you could see how to draw out a curve. I did that in the first hole cut. So this is the same scenario. I just went ahead and straightened my reference to, you know, align with the front view or back view in this case. And then I used the curve tool to draw a curve and then loft it. And so that's what this is. And then I just pulled it over here and I kind of looked at the reference and just tried to adjust it so it was sitting close to where I feel like it's cut in the reference. And then I'm going to go ahead and just start cutting this in. But so I kind of realized I sort of made a mistake in my workflow, and that is that since I'm going to cut a hole in here, I don't have to cut it on both sides, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete the inside and keep just the outside. And then I'll just go ahead and duplicate it again and once I'm done. So to do that, I'm just going to grab that and double click, and I'll just grow it once and hit delete, and do that again over here. So double click and then grow it once, hit delete, and then now I can just delete this inside part off. And so now all I have is the outside part. Now, just like I did before, I'm actually going to duplicate this, Control D, and then I'm going to call this cap 3 HP. So you can see I have one right here that I'll actually delete. So now I've got this, I'll rename it, get rid of the 3. There we go, just cap HD. And then, so this cap HP, I'm just going to go ahead and smooth. And then I'm going to take this, this cap, and then just, oops, I forgot to turn this one on to the live surface. So now let's take this one, and then just make sure it's sticking right to it. And then let's turn off the live surface and hide that. Okay, so just like we did with the other hole, I want to isolate this a little bit, and I can rotate it because it is a cylinder. If I couldn't rotate it, I can adjust the edge flow using like the edge slide tool and snapping it to this underlying high poly to make sure it keeps the same shape. But in this case, this is a cylinder, so it actually kind of makes it easy to go ahead and just adjust it by just moving it a little bit like so. And so I'm going to go something like that. Okay. So how do you break this down? So if you remember the last tutorial, when I went, well, the one before the last, I went into how to cut this hole and I was in Photoshop. So I'm thinking of this like, here's a circle, here's a circle, and here's a circle. Now this is positive space, and then these are negative space. So obviously these will be cut away, and then this positive space will have to remain. So being that they're basically circles, we could start breaking it down in that fashion. So let's go ahead and just lay out an edge that goes right through the middle. And so that's going to take care of one part of this circle and one part of this circle. Then we'll have to have an edge in here, like so. An edge in here, like so. And then this one right here, we'll actually lay an edge in right there. So that'll take care of a whole bunch of issues that could come up with that. And then, of course, we could go ahead and blend these onto the higher poly surface, and we can move these apart a little bit too if we want to balance the edge flow. And if we want, we can do that right now. So let's just pull out the higher poly surface and let's make it live. We'll take the one. And actually, here's one of those situations where if you wanted to, you actually could use your quad draw, make it easier to see. But then what happens is I have to grab the entire edge loop. So that actually becomes easier if I don't have the quad draw. And in that case, I might want to, change to a different view, like a wireframe. But let's hide. It's this one. Let's hide that. Okay, now we can see a little bit better. Okay, so there's the lower poly, and we can just, for this one, I think I'm just going to edge slide it, and then I'll snap it to it. So sometimes that works better. So see, I have my edge slide on. I can just edge slide it like this a little bit. Edge slide it like this a little bit. And we can try to even these out a little bit. And then we'll take these three and we'll snap these. So let me go ahead and just go like that. There we go. So if I just touch it barely, it'll snap out. And now I'll go ahead and start cutting into here. So from here, get rid of that and hide that. And then let's see here. That should be fine. So I'll just cut. I'll just use the cut tool. Start off from the bottom here. Follow my guide. So all the way at the bottom. Up to here. If you want, you can just lay one kind of right there, or you can just cut right across and then put it in later. And you can see, just because I understood how to break it down, now cutting it becomes pretty easy. And then here, this will have to work with a little bit in a second, but we'll just go ahead and hit enter. And then I didn't draw one into here, so definitely want to do that. Actually, let's see, like that, and then that will go there. Okay, so let's get this in there. And then let's just put that into there. Actually, this one, I'm going to undo that. I'll take care of that in a little bit. Actually, that is already a quad, so we don't have to do anything. Alright, so now what we want to do is we want to lay in an edge loop. So let me use my edge loop tool here, make sure it's set correctly. And then just lay in a nice edge loop. And you can see here we got this edge right there. I want to get rid of that, so I'm just going to hit Control Backspace to get rid of that. And this is a case where I will turn the corner. So I will go like this. And then go something like that. We'll fix that up later. Okay, let's get this. And then Let's see, anything else? Nope, looks good. So let's just delete these faces out that we don't need. And then these two. I think I can hide this now. Let's turn on wireframe, unshaded. So you can see we got a little issue here. Let's go to our target well. There it is. There we go. And my edge slide is still on, so I should be able to just kind of pull this over a little bit. That should be okay. We can do the same thing here if we wanted. And I think these look a little funny to me, so I gotta turn off edge slide for these. Straighten that out a little bit. Now we can look over at our reference to see if it's looking the way we have. And it's pretty close. Again, it's, you know, it's kind of an angle picture. It's not 100% perfect. But the last thing we want to do is just make sure that everything is snapped to that high poly surface. So let's just make sure it's all good to go. Let's see here. Actually, I had that right here. Shift H. And then alright, so you can see it adjusted itself a little bit. It was pretty close though. So not much to do. And then I'm going to assign a blend to it. So assign, I have an existing blend, just assign that to it. And that highlight helps me see things. I'm going to hit Control 1 just to isolate it for a second here. Hit F. I just want to see if I have any artifacts. Looks pretty good. These are a little bit more round than I would like. Like I know that in the reference, this this part is not as round. That could be pretty easily remedied if I just go ahead and add another edge in here and slide this edge up. So I could just go like this, add an edge in there, and then I can just slide this edge up a little bit. Oops, looks like I didn't get the whole thing. There we go. Slide that up a little bit, and then maybe just go that way. We can also kind of pull this a little bit more straight. And of course we'll have to fix it by snapping it to the underlying high poly. I'm going to just, let's look at the reference actually. Yeah, they look like they're looser over here, but over here on this side they're a bit tighter. And for some reason today I want that to look right, so let's go ahead and we'll just adjust this one right here. So to do this, I'm just going to use the slide and then slide it. You got to do it one at a time though. So make it a little bit more tight. And then you can also slide these over just a little bit, like so. Maybe slide this over a little bit. It's a minor adjustment. And this works the same exact way. Oops. Alright, so I think that's not too bad. Now again, if we take these, might as well grab the whole thing and just bring this back out. So go back to this. And you can see how those snap to the surface. Very good. Very good. Alright. I know I was getting a little bit particular there, but sometimes you should. So. And now if we hit F3 on the keyboard, looks decent. I still think this thing could come down a little bit, but I think for this tutorial we're gonna leave it there. And let's go ahead and just thicken the surface. So grab everything, do an extrude, and just pull it in. About so. If I like, I can pull out the body. See how close I am. Maybe like that. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. Now, of course, it's inverted, so let's reverse that. And all we have to do now is just lay in a couple of holding edges on the inside here. Let's try that again. There we go. Alright, I lied. One more thing. Soften edge. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Delete the history, freeze the transformations, and good to go. Okay, so next we'll move on to making the pegs, and then we'll probably have to clean up some UVs. We can make the light bulb. That should be pretty simple. And that, I believe, is it. So the end is near. Alright, thanks for watching.